Hey everybody, welcome to another segment of Tony's show. Oh, hold on a second, I think I better pause. Okay, another segment of Tony's show. Sorry about that, I had an interruption. I had a demon walk through the door. Anyway, I want to touch on a lot of things tonight. I want to touch with Australia because it's going to lead to other things and other aspects of Nano. We've been telling you for a long time that the Nano is taking over. Everything it touches, it takes over. But there's a YouTube video there where a woman was monitoring the storm, and she saw the nano constructs in the atmosphere actually forming and creating the storm fronts that were going on. One hand, they were getting set on fire. The other hand, they were getting flooded. And as a result of the flooding and of the burning of Australia, this nano composition is going to play a key role in their environment. And let me explain what happens. See, you're dumping nanoparticles already in the air with chemtrails. We've got tons of aluminum, barium, strontium, zinc, nano cadmium, plutonium, uranium, all kinds of stuff up there on a nano scale. We got stuff up there we don't even know what's up there anymore. It is integrated and has changed by chemically, elementally it's changed, and so we have material, particulate matter up in the atmosphere today. We have no idea what it is. So as a result, now we are in a position where we are polluted with nanotechnology that we have no knowledge about. And when it hits the ground, it causes undue damage on the bacteria and on the foliage, trees, plants, crops. There's no organic. Anyone tells you there's an organic crop today, they're high on stupidity. If you can't figure out that after almost 50 years, over 50 years, of dumping genetically engineered material and for over 60 years, dumping nanoparticulates in the atmosphere, would not have saturated the soil and the environment by now wherever you may live, whether it be Europe, Baltic region, Asia, the Middle East, Far East, Near East, Australia, New Zealand, Central South America, Caribbean, United States, Canada, it doesn't matter where you are. You have been assaulted with the greatest assault ever, targeting the greatest thing that they could target. See, to have a war costs money. You got to build the tanks, and you got to build the bombs, and then afterwards you got to rebuild the cities. But this way, you create the perfect biological agent, the bioweapon of all bioweapons, food. I've been telling you for years not to eat any of the grains, including that gluten-free bullshit that they've been selling you in the health food industry. It's all contaminated, it's all corrupted, and most of you have gut issues, have esophageal issues, have pain issues, and it's all tied to the nano you've been consuming and the genetics you've been consuming. And what happens is you don't feel it right away. In fact, you don't hardly feel it at all till one day you wake up and you got this dire pain going on, ongoing, and you can't figure out where it's coming from. You go to the doctor and you're asking for some kind of pill. He gives you some pills, tells you it's gas, or it tells you got gastritis, or you got enteritis, or diverticulosis, or leaky gut, whatever bullshit of the day that they're propagating. Then you get the drugs. Take the drugs, nothing works. Change your diet, nothing works. Eat this, you suffer. Eat that, you suffer. Because by that time, it has inundated you, has taken you over, has now broken down your digestive system, your immune system, your mitochondria, your ATP, everything has been broken down, and so now you barely function. And at the same time that the genetic damage was done, now the new genome is being rewritten because you are now absorbing nanoparticles in the form of either smart dust, smart sensors, smart particles, engineered nanoparticles, engineered nanomaterials, etc., etc., etc. Now the Australians have had a storm. It has come down. it has rained, and it's been raining and flooding. And on the other hand, they've been burning, they've been scorched to death. So the fires that are burning were set by directed energy weapons, and because there's such a high level of aluminum on the ground, those fires are, and magnesium and other nanometals that are highly, highly combustible, lithium, bismuth, and other metals, that to put those fires out, conventional firefighting methods do not work. We knew a firefighter back in Arizona about 15 years ago. They were fighting the firefights in California and Arizona, and he was saying that because there was so much aluminum on the trees and in the foliage, that what was going on was the fires that they were dealing with could not be extinguished through normal channels. They had to use explosives, they had to use other fire retardants in order to stop the fire. Even the burning a fire ahead of it so that it could redirect the fire or work its way into the fire to, again, to exhaust the oxygen, then nothing worked. The Australians are going to find out that a lot of these things are not going to work either. And being hit with directed energy weapons is another plus to that side of it. So then when the nanoparticles come down in the rain, what happens is now the soil is just ripe to be soaked and drenched, and you have flooding. And now you have also hail going on there. And this is a word of caution to those of you in Australia. If you see any hail, do not pick it up with your hands. I saw the dumbasses on the YouTube picking it up with their hands. I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. Nobody can be this stupid. This is not hail. These are chemical compositions that they've created that they drop on the ground, and they're just hoping some stupid ass will pick up these hail pellets and then absorb the nano. You guys got to start thinking. If you're watching the snow up in North America being set on fire, and you're seeing people turning on the faucets and lighting that on fire, what makes you think that they're not going to chemically treat the storms and things that are happening down under? These are not a normal weather pattern or a weather front. This is a nano construct happening, and it's happening in your country right now. Who knows? It may shift to New Zealand. Who knows where it's going to go next? But you guys got to smarten up. If you see something that abnormal, don't just run out there like a kid in a candy shop. Oh, look what I found. Use gloves, preferably rubber ones. Now we'll see what happens to the people that have touched this hail. See if they have any major outbreaks or any major breakdown in their health. It's to be expected at this stage. The nano, when it comes down now, will embed in the soil. It'll coat the land. And when that happens, whatever is planted in the ground will absorb that nano program or those nanoparticles. And it's not going to be 1 or 2. It's not going to be 10 or 20. It's not going to be 100 or 1,000. It's not going to be 10,000. It's going to be in the hundreds of thousands. And you're really going to have to be smart in how you eat and what you buy. Don't expect the food supply to be kosher, to say the least. So now it leads me to the next part of this. And the reason why I'm saying this is because they are now planning on putting nanoparticles directly into the ground with the plants. So the vegans can kiss their ass goodbye. If they're going to stay vegan and that's all they're going to eat, they're not going to be around long. The cattle are also going to be now treated with nano. I'm going to get into that too. There is no stone that's going to be left unturned. And there isn't going to be any, cushy, coddling here. You're going to hear what's got to be, you're going to hear what's going to happen and what they're doing. They don't give a shit about anybody. Period. Everyone is fair game in this matter. You need to start thinking in terms of indoor grow-up, because outside right now, guess what? It's done. Waste of time. And don't think that you're going to be able to get away by eating seafood. They're already dumping shit in the ocean as well. The remarkable thing about all this is when they're saying that they're going to put it in the ground so that they can better monitor the earth, monitor the plants, better yields, going to be stronger, healthier, blah, 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 pest resistance, so forth and so on. Everything is always going to be about how good it is going to be for us. And then usually after they insert this shit in the air or in the ground or where they put it in, it takes 20 years for anybody to really figure out what is going on and why you're sick. It ain't going to even take that long. For the most part, in 5 years, most of you are going to have issues and health issues that you've never even heard of before. And they're going to create all kinds of things. And you are going to say, oh, really? What is that? It's already going on now. I had a guy email me. I couldn't believe it. The last email said, I wrote him, and I said this straight out, you can't help stupid. I gave him the information, told him the links to go look up, go read. Kept on asking me, saying some stupid things. I said, you know what, you really can't help stupid. So here's the information. Get caught up, start reading, pay attention. Don't think for 1 minute that the stuff that we dealt with, that we had 100 years ago, may work today. We are dealing with synthetic biology, artificial life. We are dealing with a programmable life. Okay, they're even talking about programming inanimate objects to do things. They're talking about putting 3D printouts with DNA. This is remarkable. In other words, when you actually connect the dots and don't believe the rhetoric and the bullshit that they're propagating to sell you on the idea so that you will agree with it and not challenge it, that they're going to be able to embed DNA into you, in your DNA, to embed whatever code they want. They can embed any kind of documentation they want inside of you. In fact, with the DNA writing, they will be able to inscribe things so that, for instance, let's say you have rejected vaccines. This is a real reality. This is not comic book science fiction. Okay, you rejected the vaccines, and they can tell whether or not you took the vaccine. Because now they can run a scanner over your body, and the body will register that you have the specific DNA that they've implemented into the vaccine, which can be inscribed with 3D, whatever the vaccine is that you took or you didn't take. Now you tell the doctor, yeah, I got my flu shot. Well, eventually they're going to be able to look at you, scan you, and realize that you never had a flu shot. The DNA is not registering. The 3D printout is not showing up on their computer. This is real. This is the real deal. They're doing this right across the board. You are nothing more than prattle to these people. You're not even cattle. Cattle has more value as far as they're concerned. They can raise them, cook them, and eat them. You are a problem children that require a lot of effort and very little return. That's how they see you. That's how they see all of us. And because you're too busy with your cell phone and your social media and your television shows and your radio shows and getting caught up in whatever distortions and distractions that they have thrown at you, you are like, those of you born in the 50s and 60s, you remember the story of the ant and the grasshopper, the old fable, the Aesop's fable. How the ant was diligently getting ready for the winter. Getting ready, being prepared, getting ready. And how the grasshopper was frolicking and playing and partying and say, hey, Mr. Ant, come on down. Why don't you boogie woogie? Why don't you have a little Stogie here, why don't you take a drag off this joint? Why don't you have a slug off this booze? Let's just have some fun. Look at all the wild women that we got here. Let's just tie one on. And the ant said, no, I got to get ready for the winter. I got to work, man. He says, man, we live for the moment. We live for the day. Remember that story? When the winter came, the ant was ready, and he was cozy, and he was comfortable, and he was out of the cold, and the grasshopper was dragging his ass in the snow, freezing his ass off. And when he knocked on the ant says, come on in, warm up for a little bit. And the grasshopper said, I should have paid attention to you. I should have listened to you. I should have been preparing for this hardship, this hard time. But instead, I was out there playing with my cell phone. I was having social media. I was, distracted with music. I was chasing fairy tales. I was listening to the New Age bunk. I was listening to this, universal crap, and none of that worked. I was listening to some religious nonsense. I was listening to some political nonsense. I was listening to the sermons, and they were all basically humanistic jargon, not saying anything of biblical proportions or any spiritual truths. Just a bunch of hocus pocus bunk. But I allowed myself to be played. Now the winter is here, and I am not ready. That's where most of the millennials are today. They're not going to be ready. And a lot of people today who have these cushy jobs, sitting there making whatever money and not really doing a whole lot for them and getting caught up in the debt scheme, they too are going to be in for a hell of a ride. This nano poisoning is becoming an epidemic. I got a call today or an email today. Someone asked me about lime, and some people ask me about Morgellons. And I tell people all the time, there ain't no Morgellons and there ain't no lime. I say it straight out, just like that. The lime is a cover-up for the nano poisoning, and Morgellons, I don't know what that is, but what we're dealing with today is nanobiotech. That's what we're dealing with today. A synthetic form of life, an artificial life, pseudo-life that is now integrating with our DNA, and is either breaking us down or overriding us. So when you contact me and you're asking me for Lyme, I'll tell you something about Lyme. If you really got Lyme disease, I'll tell you how simple that is to get rid of. Basically, if you really got a tick bite, a tick infection, okay, and you're feeling the effects of the proteins and maybe the larvae that may be inside your body, then what you need to do is give yourself a good healthy shock, an electrical shock. Run an electrical current right through you. That will fry the central nervous system of anything that might be inside, that might be parasitical, and it'll wipe out any of the proteins. It'll burn them right up. And you should see recovery within 3 to 5 days. Now, before you say, oh wow, that's really cool, we can zap ourselves, let me reiterate something here real quick. We get all excited there and have an ecstasy moment. If it's not Lyme and it's nanobiotech, and you fire an electrical shock through your body, and it's nanobiotech and not Lyme, the explosion, and I don't mean a bomb going off, I mean the explosive growth of the nano assembly and the nano networking that will go on will be exponential. You'll be in more pain than you can shake a stick at. You'll barely be able to stand it. And then you're in for the fight of your life to get this thing down. So, the diagnoses most of these doctors are giving people today are a complete pile of bunk. So I would suggest, before you zap yourself with an electrical charge, go and look at the nano information that we have put out there. You can assault this thing 2 or 3 times. And you may think you're getting the upper hand on this thing. What happens if it's a direct assault? It will morph into something else. It'll morph its paradigm. It'll shift it and continue on its program. It has the capacity to come up with its own defense means and changes. So I am saying to you, before you buy into the mainstream lunacy that they're propagating today, most of you do not have line. Most of you do not have Morgellons. Most of you, I would say, have nano bio tech poisoning. And if you want to see some pictures, go to www.minds.com. Look at Brian396. He's got a full display, full complement of pictures. Sorry, that's his data. He's got a photo gallery on the Google Photo Gallery. Go look him up. You can see what's going on. The nano is everywhere. It's not just in the United States and Canada. I get calls all across the planet. Africa, the Middle East, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, North and South America, Canada, Caribbean. People are getting this everywhere. Europe. Don't be thinking that this is just a localized problem. It isn't. We are dealing, like I said, with a construct that has the capacity of using any kind of nucleic acid, XNA, DNA, XNA, PNA, LNA, GNA, that can attach itself to your DNA and become one with you. The Australians need to be aware that don't assume anything with that weather you're getting. Nothing. Don't even assume the hail is hail. Okay? If you feel any symptomology whatsoever, feeling like you're coming down with something because you handled that hail, immediately get Lugol's iodine going inside of you ASAP. Go to your doctors, see what they can do. If they'll do anything, I doubt it. But get on the iodine ASAP. Start using sulfur. Start using some form of phosphorus. Epsom salt is the cheapest sulfur you could use to help again extricate some of the stuff out. Phosphorus in the form of trisodium phosphate, or inositol phosphate, IP6, a phosphorus supplement, some kind, sunflower lecithin, egg yolk, any kind of phosphorus will get to help again flush this out. You may want to use some kind of chelating agent, DTPA, EDTA, STS, pectin. Start using these things. Avoid the charcoal, especially if you've handled anything of that nature. We're no longer living in the 1900s. And with the frequency devices that are out there today, 5G, 6G, 7G, 10G, whatever, okay, 6G is the big one to watch. When we're talking about these frequencies and how they affect the DNA, there's a link I talked about where they're using ionizing radiation and how it can create genetic damage. Cell phone use and towers are not necessarily ionizing radiation. But when you're looking at just how radiation can affect the body, creating the distortions in the DNA and the strands, weakening and breaking down everybody, causing a great deal of alarm and duress, you have to start thinking, when is the assault going to end? How many of you have to be afflicted before you wake up? How many of you have to be targeted before you begin to realize that things ain't what they used to be? How many have to see more grief and more damage before you understand that the agenda on the planet is changed? The powers that be, the entities that run the planet, are now taking it out, taking it over, and they're minimizing and reducing the population in so doing so. It's not like we have a lack of resources. We have an abundance of resources. But the resources are being diverted to something else. Entities are using the resources that are rightfully ours. And they're taking these resources and doing God knows what with them. And as a result now we have leftovers. That's how it rolls. That's the way it goes. And now there is this agenda to get everybody in a state of paranoia and panic in regarding to medical, vaccinations, pharmaceutical drugs, diseases, new and improved diseases. Oh man, oh man. I can honestly say in the last 20 to 25 years, most of the health issues that we have been dealing with have come out of a lab. They have been synthesized, created artificially, and have been released in the general population. I'd have to say that. Starting way back with some of the STDs, way back in the day, what they called AIDS, which doesn't really exist. AIDS, Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, is an acronym that means you're sick. They have again corrupted you with some sort of biometrical genetic pathology that caused what it caused. And that could have been treated with high doses of selenium in a liposome form. Today, we're not dealing with just a simple genetic anomaly that was created to assault your endocrine system. Today, there has been created things to take over your mind. Kept hearing that song Deep Police all day today, off and on in my head. And how people are complaining that they're hearing voices and they're hearing things. The song Deep Police by Cheap Trick, I believe it was this group, sang the song way back in the 70s, I believe. 70s, early 80s, one or the other. And this was a forerunner. They were telling us what they were going to do. Mind control experiments on the general population, hitting people with all kinds of crap in their head. I talked about Max Egan the other day, how he got hit with an AI program. And it took a couple of days for the program to assimilate itself into his head. And he started spewing all kinds of stupid garbage. Dumb shit. Really dumb shit. Now that may not be his character, and maybe it is, I don't know. I don't pay attention to the guy that much. But, not because I don't like him or anything, I don't pay attention to a lot of things, to be honest with you. I'm busy doing what I gotta do. But when you're looking at stuff like that happened to him, he's got a thing called Troop Trap. When you see this guy, you see that he's been hit, and he tells you he's been hit. He tells you he's been hit with technology. Why he was not able to put two and two together, I do not know. Maybe it whacked his head hard enough where you couldn't see that what had happened to him was that artificial intelligence had taken over the program. Anyway, the point is, this is also part of what's going on today. And it's why it's so difficult to talk to so many people, because a lot of people today are under a program. And that cell phone attaches itself to your biometrics, to your genetic code, to your DNA. I can't wait to see the day where everybody takes their cell phones and throws them in a huge fire pit. About the best place for them. all they're doing is causing chaos and corrupting young people's brains, and then programming them to believe in whatever stupid nonsense that is being propagated in the day. And they can't see past whatever, and they get so caught up in the indoctrinations of whatever they're being told that they cannot get past these indoctrinations. I got a young gal that believes in some sort of celestial elders and universal blah blah blah. I keep telling her all the time, this is just a game. It's a hoax. It's another one of these misconceptions and misdirects. But she's still, caught up on this. And I said, now she's been hit with the Nano, and other things are happening. I says, well, let the pain begin. I says, this is your wake-up call. See, I don't pray for people that they don't get hurt. I'm the opposite. I pray that they get to the lessons very quickly. Minimal pain, minimal as possible. But nobody wakes up unless they're in pain. It's an unfortunate reality. So if we're praying for people to wake up, we're essentially praying that they go through the trials and tribulations they need to go through in order to wake up. And I think that is the only way it's going to happen. Everyone is caught up on their own agenda because that's how they did it. They divided and conquered everybody in regarding to, your own self-importance and what you can do and what you can get, and, the success factor of life, you're being successful. And the funny thing about that is, the more successful you are in life, the deeper into the abyss you go. It's really strange how everything is contorted and reversed. The more success you achieve, the closer you are to death's door. It's just how the nature of this bizarro planet works. It really is. When you're looking at some of the things I'm putting out tonight on the links, again, some of the stuff, a lot of the stuff Brian 396 and myself talked about 12 years ago. 10, 12 years ago. And now it's surfacing again. It's coming back again. So I know a lot of you weren't around 10, 12 years ago. So now a lot of you have these issues going on. And we've been telling you about the self-assembly, self-repair, self-replicating. We've been telling you about how these things can grow in the body and how they can change the DNA. And we've been expressing how, Nano is what it is. It's a program or subroutine or an algorithm that is designed to, again, access and hack your DNA and genetic code and to take you over or take you out. So when you look at storing data in everyday objects using DNA, can you imagine that? Now think about that. You go buy a pair of pants, and that pair of pants has DNA in it. DNA that they have programmed so they can see where that pair of pants goes. Cheap and expensive, and it's easy to do. Imagine going to go buy a bar of soap. Imagine you're buying a hygiene product, especially women. Get the old pads, and it's got a DNA code in it. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Imagine where that DNA is going. Think about that one. Imagine you're going to a grocery store and you're buying groceries, and they have put some data in the meat you're eating using DNA. Imagine that, buying a box of cereal, and the cereal content has DNA that has data all over it. Now some of you might say, well, why would they need to have all these kind of data? Well, at the last show I talked about where your cell phone was going to be taking pictures of you every 5 minutes without you being, and then sending it up to the cloud so they can have a complete profile on you. When the time comes and they initiate the takeover and they start harvesting people, they're going to have so much information on you that they'll be able to manipulate the law so that you're guilty no matter what you did, what you say. Camera will be taking the pictures. Those pictures can be manipulated. The phone will take the pictures. They can be manipulated. The cell phone can record your voice. You can be having an innocent conversation, and all of a sudden that can be used against you up the way. This is not that far-fetched. This is not that far-fetched. A simple innocent conversation can be made to look and appear that you are saying things that are compromising, and now you have to deal with whatever. They're talking about the first programmable carbon nanotube chip. Wow. Anybody want any carbon C60 so that the carbon nanoparticles can assemble a carbon nanotube inside your head? Imagine that, eh? Nano. This is again a rehash. They were already doing things with carbon years ago, writing code and things on there before. Now they're saying they've got a nanotube chip, a tube. They were able to write 12 years ago 1 terabyte of data on 1 nanoparticle. Imagine you're going to be able to write a program now on a chip. What does that mean exactly? I'll let you speculate. I'll let you connect the dots. But I will tell you this, when you read this article, and you read some of the reasons they tell you how this can be used. They will propagate saying that it's for the good, and all the good it can be done with it. But when you actually look at what they're saying, it's all about accessing you with their software. So they can have a complete composition of you, no matter what you do, where you go, how you live. Imagine that, eh? Imagine that. Self-assembling microtubules. Self-assemble microtubules. What are they going to grow inside of you next? You know, these are things, and just to make sure you understand how advanced the technology is on spyware and surveillance, they have an ultra-fast camera that can take 1 trillion frames per second. 1 trillion frames per second. That's 1 with 12 zeros, if I'm not mistaken. Imagine that. 1 trillion frames per second. This thing, nano biotechnology, AI, artificial intelligence, the frequencies in the towers, the cell phones, the nanodots, the engineered nanoparticles, the genetics, all coalesce to assault you on so many different fronts. And to think that, and this is all being done by artificial intelligence. There's probably nobody at the helm anymore doing this. I figured that out about 2 years ago. I think I saw that it was basically too methodical, and they could hit people from anywhere, any place, any time. We are in that world. We are in the days of Noah. We're in those good old days. We're in an ark 3 stories high, and people are knocking on your door asking to come in because the water's now shoulder level. And you reach out to open the door and say, God has a plan for you. I know it's a cruel joke. That's what's going to happen to a lot of people, though. But I just mentioned a little scenario about Noah and then, the little window. Oh, God has a plan. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. We don't understand it. We don't understand artificial intelligence because we don't see it. And if something can take 1 trillion frames of photographs in a second, and then be able to access the information within moments after it does this, we are dealing with a far more advanced intellect than we could even conceive. And if it can do 50 million computations per quantisecond, this is indicating that it's even now faster. Point is, you have to get ready. Biblically, it says it's going to be like the days of Noah. And there are people that believe in this rapture stuff. I don't. Let me first tell you, I don't hold a lot of stock in it. I like to be wrong on that one, I really would, but I'm not holding my breath. So it's the same thing with people that believe in this ascension stuff. It's the same thing. It's a trap. It's a lot of nonsense too. Same idea, actually. But let's just say, for argument's sake, so we don't get into any kind of debate about, there's a rapture, I can prove it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine, you got a rapture, I can ascend, I can prove it, whatever. Okay, that's cool too. But now the Bible says that we need to get ready, and he who endures to the end will be saved, and so forth and so on. But since we don't know when the rapture is actually going to come, we have really no idea if it's going to come. Now some you say, yeah, it's coming, I know it's coming, I can feel it. Okay, fine. But since you don't know when it's coming, and you have no idea, Jesus himself said, no man know the day or the hour except the Father. So when you hear some preacher in the pulpit saying, oh yeah, Jesus is coming January 2021. When Jesus himself said he didn't know when he was coming back, and you hear somebody say that bullshit, run the other way. Don't walk, run. That's the door of iniquity waiting for you to walk in. But since you don't know when the rapture is coming, perhaps, since we are going to be in the days of Noah, that perhaps you start preparing like Noah did. Just my thinking. We are dealing with an onslaught of different modems and different modalities, from genetically engineering our food, now putting nano in the food supply, in the ground, in the plant-based foods. We're putting nano now in the livestock food supply as well. So you're going to have to learn how to neutralize the impact of these particles, because if you eat them, they're going to go through you and they're going to get lodged. They don't come out, you don't pee them out, you don't poop them out, you don't sweat them out, you don't spit them out, you don't cough them out. Once they're in bed, they start networking. That's the problem with it. And that's the plant-based foods are completely saturated. Totally saturated. The animals now will have it as well. The only difference is the animals may not either, but they may be able to crap and piss a lot of it out. But if you can find a farmer, if you can find somebody who's raising cattle the old-fashioned way and not putting nano into their diet, I suggest you buy the meat from them. Buy your chickens, buy your poultry, buy your game, buy your livestock, there. Don't minimize whatever you get out of a grocery store. There's something you're still going to have to do or get, that's fine, but start again being prepared like Noah. That's one way. your food supply has to be healthy. If your food supply is poisoned, you are going to be right behind. You're buying these survival foods and they got soy and artificial natural flavor and they got all this stuff in it. You know, this is not survival food. That's die later food. In other words, when you eat this stuff, it'll start poisoning your system. And as a result of the poisoning of your system, when you get to a certain point, you may not get access to some of the things you may need to neutralize these things or to be able to repair these things. So as a result, you wind up devastated with some sort of autoimmune disorder or some sort of cancer. If you're going to get survival food, get cans of tuna, water, salt, and fish. Someone said, what about the lead, mercury? Anything you got is going to be whatever. But you want to minimize anything estrogenic like soy or anything that says natural and artificial flavor. We don't want aborted babies in our fish. Again, stockpile that if you can. That's survival food. Stockpile dried eggs, dehydrated eggs. Stockpile dehydrated milk. Stockpile dehydrated collagen or gelatin. Stockpile dehydrated, amino acids of all kinds. Creatine, glutamine. These are cheap and easy ways to stockpile and be prepared for anything, really. Like I said, we're no longer in that realm where things are what we used to call normal. Nothing really ever was normal. You ever think of that? I look back now and I think, what the hell is normal? Yeah, the thing is, we come into this world and we don't really know anything. Or if we do have something, I guess it gets squeezed out of our brains as we're coming through the tunnel of love there. Oh, look, he had a brain. Whatever he had is gone now. Squeezed right out. Then all you get is a slap on the backside, which again shocks you. And I think that might be done on purpose. Maybe there is information we have coming with us through the love canal. And when you come out and they smack you on the backside, the shock just knocks it right out of your head. It's a possibility. Or maybe they drop you on your head, who knows? Well, possibility. Anything's possible. And we go through life wondering, observing, integrating, interacting. And then after a while you begin to realize none of it is of any real value, nothing of any consequence. Friends come and go, acquaintances come and go. You meet some friends you stay and you anchor with, some you don't. Everything is anything but normal. Or if this is normal for this planet. And I've often said the Earth is a shithole. It is no longer a planet where you can say, oh, what a lovely place to be. I think if the frequencies weren't running the way they are, we would probably see the planet like they show you in the Matrix. Guy turns on the TV and shows you a picture of New York City or some high-rise, high-end city, and then turns the dial a little bit and shows you this is what's left of that city, complete devastation and destruction. And it almost feels like this is really what is going on. The actual scenario, what's happening. So anyway, when you see anomalies in the weather, avoid going outside if you can. If you can't, then cover up to the best of your ability. Don't pick anything off the ground barehanded. No matter how enticing it is, and go, oh, look, hey, oh. Use gloves. Use a shovel. You do not know what they have loaded those materials with. If the rainwater comes down as a deluge, and it floods an area, You can bet your backside that they've got Nano being implemented into the ground. You can bet on it. If you see unusual weather patterns, don't stay out there and gawk. Go for shelter. You don't know, again, what's being released. When they were showing that rain front coming in off Australia, they're showing you that the sky was not normal, and it wasn't moving according to the jet stream that it should have been. And she goes into a lot of explanation about a lot of different things in that regard. But she pointed it out that there was Nano in the air, and the Nano was manipulating everything. So anybody who still thinks those are condensation trails, at this stage of the game, give them a flyer, say good luck, and then move on. Get yourselves prepared, get yourselves ready. That would be my suggestion to anyone who is awake. Have a plan B. Always have a plan B. And continue, doing whatever it is you're doing, but prep yourself to the best of your ability. Because if the food supply should become extinct or very low, people will kill each other for a crumb. That's how it is. That's how it is. If you're also prepare yourselves to stockpile water. Okay, put iodine in whatever water you're buying, or chlorine, one or the other. This way it'll disinfect and keep the water sanitized, but that's going to be an important, very important thing to stockpile water. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to leave you with these thoughts in regarding to artificial intelligence, weather modifications now are being controlled by artificial intelligence, AI running the show. AI can take 1 trillion pictures in a second, can analyze them all within a matter of seconds. Like I said, be prepared, get yourself ready. Don't just assume that you don't see something isn't going on. It may seem a little paranoia, it may seem a little xenophobic, but when you're looking around you and see that the very lights themselves can send a signaling pattern through the Wi-Fi blue beam, okay, why is that happening? Why do we have to monitor everybody in the street? And now adding DNA to different objects so that no matter what you consume, wear, or use, it'll have DNA. See, like I said, we've got to start thinking in preparation. You got to start thinking in preparation. Don't just, be coddled. The powers that be will coddle you to death. That's the way it is. That's how it rolls. Alrighty. I'm always talking about, supporting people. You got Aramak. He's got a link called The Attack to Mankind. He's also got a YouTube channel. You got Brian396. You got his, nano assembly videos on the Google channel, photos.google.com. You've got also his data channel, www.minds.com/Brian396. He's got nanobiometrics, nanotechnology, things on the current topics as we're going through today. So again, you got these guys there. You got on the site as well. There's a guy called the Herbalist Forum, herbalist.seleniteplus.com. You might want to type that in. He's got a site set up. A lot of information is from my site. So he's also propagating it, which is good to see that people are sharing the information. So that's good to know. You've also got me at augmentinforce.com, augmentinforce.com. That's my website. You got my YouTube channels. You got my BitChute channels. You got the Podbean channels. So everybody that I mentioned, myself, Blast, whatever. You got Brian, you got Aramac, and you got the herbalists at their herbalist forum. These people are putting stuff out there and getting things going and showing you the real deal. So help them any way you can. Do what you can. Again, don't go without bread and starving. If you can help, do so. If you can't, don't worry about it. Even if you send them all a penny, that's cool. If you want to send me something, that's fine too. You don't have to. It's just the way it is. If you are having hard times and you can barely put a plate of food on your table, then don't do anything financial. Get yourself on your feet. Get prepared. Be prepared. Instead, share the information. Share the data with anybody you can. That would be just as beneficial to everybody, including yourself. All right. On that note, I'm going to let you guys go. So you can, like I said, read this information, follow it. Don't hesitate with it. Follow it, read it, understand it. Some of them have 2 links. I forgot to mention that. So you'll have a basic link and another link where it'll give you the meat and potato. All right, till the next show, to your health, eh? And again, wear protection. Not for sex, that too, I guess. But if you're handling nano biotechnology, take care.